Sushant Sreen, there was another word that was used by the EM today. One word was candid, the other one was constructive. So let me ask you, has the Chinese approach to tackling this boundary issue been constructive? Let's just ask an open question.
Rahul, a couple of things. I think one, you have to recognize that, and I think it's important for me to underline this fact, that, a lot of people are jumping to the conclusion that India and China are now starting to talk because of, the problems we are having with the United States. But the fact of the matter remains, much before any problems started with the United States, India and China had started in a slow and measured manner to start re-engaging each other and start rebuilding some amount of confidence. So for people who think that this is suddenly some kind of a knee-jerk reaction which is taking place, it is not that. It is that probably there is a greater degree of urgency to try and sort out some of the more troubling problems between us at this point in time, and we can thank Donald Trump for that. But that process had started much earlier. Secondly, I look, my own sense is that both India and China have missed opportunities in the past to settle the border question. There have been times when the Chinese have made certain proposals to us, and there were people from India who did not want to accept those proposals. There have been other times when we have made certain proposals and the Chinese have not accepted those proposals. And I think there's been a miscalculation on both sides. Perhaps another time has come where, as the professor is saying, maybe in a more constructive approach, neither the Chinese are going to get their maximalist demands, nor I would imagine the Indians are going to get the maximalist demand. So we have to try and figure out what kind of an arrangement we can reach, perhaps give it time, but until then try and manage the border so that tranquility is maintained, which I have to add was disturbed because of certain actions that the Chinese took in 2020, and that clash should have never happened. That was a violation of all the other agreements that we had entered into with the Chinese on the border issue. That had been violated. So that tension had been kind of mounting for some years, and it finally erupted. Since then, things have calmed down. But I think it is important to try and rebuild some of the confidence. And while that process is getting underway, perhaps also engage with each other on some of the other issues, which are of a nature that, for example, trade, economic cooperation, maybe on connectivity issues, we can talk to each other on a range of other issues. My own personal belief, Rahul, is that the Chinese in the past, I wouldn't say that the current Chinese leadership is doing it, but in the past, Chinese leadership has counseled the Pakistanis to back down from the high horse that they have climbed against India. The Pakistanis ignored the Chinese advice. The Chinese have continued to indulge the Pakistanis. They have their own relationship. I don't think we should make a big deal out of that particular relationship, even though it impacts us adversely. And we have to be prepared for a possible fallout of that particular relationship. But I would also go to the extent of saying that while we say that the Chinese have, and probably there is truth behind those charges, that the Chinese were giving them real-time data, at the political level, at least the statements which came out of China were not hostile or directed against India. They adopted a pretty middle-of-the-road approach. So I think there is an opportunity right now, whether both countries can grab it or not.